No, they've talked about it. And look, it was 236 rushing yards, a 5.1 average, 4 touchdowns. Look, the Eagles came in and did whatever they wanted to Detroit, and it was embarrassing. And Dan Campbell called it as much. Some players have said that. And actually, though, it's a good thing in a way, obviously, because it spurred some changes. That was the game. The Lions were on their bye the following week. That's when Dan Campbell took over play calling from Anthony Lynn.
You got Mac and Mac, McMullen McDonald here with on Bird 365, and we are joined by Tim Twentyman from the DetroitLions.com. He came on my national CBS radio show and did a great job giving me a preview for the upcoming Lions season. We're asking him to do the same again here today. Tim, Jody McDonald, and John McMullen. Thanks for hopping aboard, bud.
Hey, no problem. How you guys doing?
Our pleasure.
Doing well,
Thank
Tim.
you very much.
Just to warn you real quick before you jump in, Jody, the Eagles are paying very, very close attention to you and your reporting and your cohorts reporting. We're at CIA lockdown. So they watch and see everything, Tim. I'm just warning you.
That's all right. Hey, the more eyes, the better, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And one of the things that was a big topic of conversation with the Eagles yesterday prior to practice and then into practice, after practice, was expectations. Jason Kelsey tried to say blank expectations. Jalen Hurts, very similar. It only means you haven't achieved it yet. How about in Detroit? We've got some guys railing against it here in Philadelphia. I think they've done a nice job portraying the Lions on Hard Knocks, so it does give them a little bit of a national look. Have the expectations changed for the Lions since they showed up for camp?
Well, I think so. I mean, they're obviously not Eagles expectations where you're a playoff team last year and you're looking to now take that next step, win your division, and obviously be a force in the NFC like I think Philadelphia has a chance to do. For Detroit, look, it was a 3-win football team last year, right? Let's be honest about it. And it was the first year of the Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell regime. Now, I think they've improved their football team. I think the talent is a little bit better. I think the depth's better. But it's rare you go from 3 to 10 and you're talking about, being a contender in the NFC. I think for me and what the expectations for fans are after watching Hard Knocks, after seeing, the steps the offense has taken in training camp, how that defense has steadily improved. I think for me, it's let's play meaningful games in the month of December. Right. Around playoff time, they have that graphic, right? In the hunt or you're in the playoffs. Be in that graphic, be in the conversation. And I think if Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes can do that in their second season, if you go from 3 wins to playing meaningful games and being right there for the playoffs in your second season, now I think you're on the right track.
Tim, when you look at this roster and you said the talent has improved, where do you look at the strengths and weaknesses? Where are they good? Where do they need help?
Yeah, well, I think offensively it starts up front, and unfortunately they're dealing with, a couple injuries here heading into that game Sunday. But, I think on paper that's a top 5 offensive line. You guys know about good offensive lines over there. Philly's got a really good one, but Detroit does too. I mean, Frank Ragnow's a Pro Bowler at center. Jonah Jackson's a Pro Bowler at left guard. Taylor Decker's consistently one of the 10 best tackles in the league, and Penei Sewell, the number 7 overall pick, he's trending in that direction, sooner rather than later. They lost to right guard Big V. He's not going to play. He's on IR, so he's going to miss the 4 games. And Frank Ragnow's dealing with a groin injury. We'll see how serious that is if he practices today. But that really is a strength. And I think, adding DJ Chark and what Amon-Ra St. Brown did at the end of last year, I think the receiver core is much, much improved. And, you add those guys along with a Pro Bowl tight end and TJ Hawkinson and DeAndre Swift. I think they've really got offensively some skill position weapons that can be dangerous. The question is defense. And, this was a team that ranked in the, bottom third, really the bottom 3 of every major statistical category on defense last year. So they need improvements. You get Aiden Hutchinson. That's good. You get Jeff Okudah back, who was the number 3 pick a couple of years ago, tore his Achilles week 1 last year, and they didn't have him. So, I think offensively, you know what Detroit is, and you think they're going to be pretty good there. Really, it just comes down to that defense. And, as you guys showed last year when you ran for, what, it was a 236 yards touchdowns in that game. I think that's a great test week 1 for Detroit. How much improved is that defense? Because Philly's going to want to come in and do the same thing. Can Detroit stop it?
Let me ask you about a guy you mentioned more specifically, and that's Jeff Okudah. Very high draft pick. I would say came in and was a disappointment. You add to that the major injury. He's back. He's healthy. How high do you have to set the bar for a guy like Okudah for the Lions to be able to say, all right, here's why we drafted him as high as we did, and he's living up to those expectations?
Well, I think he's got to be a quality, legit starting cornerback. They like what Amani Oruwariye did last year in his 3rd season. He was 3rd in the NFL with 6 interceptions. He kind of, excelled to that, number 1 cornerback type. Well, they drafted Jeff Okudah to be that guy. Now, he dealt with a core muscle injury. He only played 10 games as rookie, and then obviously the Achilles last year. But physically, speed-wise, strength, all that stuff, it's back for Jeff. I was talking to him last week. He said he's actually faster and stronger than he was pre-Achilles, which is sometimes rare, as you guys know, with that kind of injury. That can have lasting effects on guys. But he's looked really, really good. And, ever since the joint practices with Indianapolis the week before the last preseason game, week 2 of the preseason, he's looked really, really good. And look, he was the number 3 pick for a reason, right? He's got all the physical tools. And so about it with him, it's just, the best abilities, availability sometimes, right? And so that's his deal. But if he can stay healthy and he continues to have the camp that he had, Detroit thinks they have 2 pretty good starting, cornerbacks, and they'll obviously be tested this week against Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. So we'll see. There's going to be no walk before you run period for Jeff Okudah. He's going to have to step in there and play good right away. He's had a good camp, so the expectations are high for him.
Yeah, and they also added Mike Hughes in that secondary. He's a former first-round pick that also hasn't lived up to expectations to date because of injuries, a lot of it. So there is some talent back there. But I want to talk about Aiden Hutchinson for a number of reasons. One, he's the number 2 overall pick in the draft, so obviously a lot is expected of him. I go back to when Nick Bosa came into this league with San Francisco, and it was eye-popping. He made such a difference. Is Aiden Hutchinson, is there that kind of potential there?
There is. Yeah, I think he's exceeded even the Lions' expectations. And I say that from an athletic standpoint. You do so much homework, but when they finally got him on the field and saw what he could do, they were even surprised athletically just how advanced he is. Look, he's got an advanced, toolbox of pass rush moves. He's got a motor that never quits. They've got a NASCAR package that they even use with him. They think he's so versatile that he can slip inside, play the 3-tech, and that allows them to get another, edge rusher out on the outside. And so, he's really become a 3-down kind of guy for them, where, he's obviously on the edge, rushing the passer, but then moves inside and gives them some rush from the interior as well. He really has been terrific. You guys saw him the Hard Knocks. He's stepped in. His teammates have accepted him. They love the work ethic. It's all, everybody says, great things about him. And you talk to the kid, he's humble. He says all the right things. He's got the right attitude. It's all about work. And he just came in, he shut his mouth, he put his head down, and he went to work. And look, that's a Dan Campbell type of guy right there. And then, to perform as well as he has in the preseason and looked as good as he has in camp, I think the expectations are pretty high. I would really be surprised if he wasn't a double-digit sack guy as a rookie. And I know that's kind of lofty expectations, but I think he's been that good.
We were talking about it before we just punched up, Jeff, about whose responsibility it's going to be to cover TJ Hawkinson for the Eagles. And they've got a new safety that they just picked up via trade before the season started, about 10 days to get up to speed. If that was going to be his number 1 responsibility of covering a guy like TJ Hawkinson, we think here in Philadelphia, we've got one of the best tight ends in football. We know you feel the same in Detroit. The other tight end, how much 12 personnel do the Lions use? Are they more a 3 wide receiver set team? Are they going to use 2 tight ends? What should the Eagles be on the look for? Now, well ahead of time, be noted, They're watching. The Eagles are watching us right now. So we know you're actually going against what the Eagles want their media to do by giving out trade secrets. I'm just asking your opinion.
Yeah.
What's the most likely setups that the Lions are going to be using Sunday against the Eagles?
There'll be multiple. I mean, that's what Ben Johnson, he's the new offensive coordinator. And he was the tight ends coach before he was elevated to the pass game coordinator midseason last year. So obviously he knows that room better than anybody. And he knows TJ Hawkinson really well. I think what TJ provides the Lions, we saw this in camp, is a little bit of versatility. They'll stand him up. They'll put him in the slot. They put him out wide. They like his ability to match up and run routes against a safety, like you said, or if they want to put a linebacker on him, good luck. So they're going to move him around a lot. I think you're probably going to see 11 more than 12. But again, you really don't know. It's week 1. We'll see what the game plan is. They like Brock Wright over. He's kind of their number 2 tight end, but more of a blocking guy coming out of Notre Dame. But when Hawkinson was hurt last year, he did show some things in the pass game. So they like the room. But yeah, I think they like that receiver core. I think they want to get those guys out on the field. DJ Chark, Josh Reynolds, Amon-Ra St. Brown in the slot. You have TJ Hawkinson at tight end, and then DeAndre Swift in the backfield. Let's remember that DeAndre Swift was leading all running backs in receptions last year before he got hurt on Thanksgiving. So there's another weapon in the pass game. So now you've got 3 wide receivers you really like. You got Amon-Ra in the slot, who set the franchise record for 90 catches and 912 yards. Finished the season with 6 straight games with 8+ catches. That's your slot receiver. You got a Pro Bowler at tight end. You got DeAndre Swift, who was leading all running backs in receptions. And you like what you have on the outside with DJ Chark and re-signing Josh Reynolds. And they haven't even seen Jamison Williams, the number 12 pick. So
that's when it really takes off.
That's when it takes off. But they really like, I think, the combination of those 3 receivers, a tight end and a running back. And I think that really stresses the defense because one of those guys is going to be single covered. And if it's Hawkinson, he might have himself a day. So, that's something that the Eagles are going to really have to figure out how they want to attack that.
All right, Tim, I want to talk to you about the third base for a couple of reasons. One, Dave Bipp, our old friend, is the special teams coordinator out with the Lions. And,
Dave's great.
Dave is great. Deuce Staley, obviously, is out with the Lions as well. But the Eagles aren't very good at special teams. Everybody looks at the Eagles and they say, well, they added A.J. Brown on offense. They added all these pieces on defense, Jordan Davis, James Bradbury, Kaiser White, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, on and on and on. That's where those great expectations lie. The Eagles don't have a kick returner. They don't have a punt returner as of yet. They traded Jalen Rager. They had a poor punting game. You guys know Aaron Cepas from training camp. That's where the Eagles found him. You had a Pro Bowl punter, and they sort of battled, and Cepas obviously lost out. How good are the Lions on special teams, and could that be sort of a surprise where they can sort of leap up in this game, maybe make a big play on special teams?
Well, look, Dan Campbell values special teams. I mean, he's almost like Harbaugh in that way. He's very involved in it. It's a big part of practice. There are multiple periods in practice with special teams at training camp, and they're long, and they spend a lot of time on it. And you mentioned Jack Fox, a Pro Bowl punter. They've got Khalif Raymond,
Khalif Raymond, yeah.
Khalif Raymond, he was the 4th best punt returner last year, averaged 11 yards per punt return. They were top 10 in the league in kickoff return. And the coverage units are really, really good. Those bottom roster spots for Dan Campbell, he talks about it all the time. He says those last 10 spots, special teams is the difference. It's not about, offense, defense. It's who gives me the most on special teams. They really value it. And look, as you guys know, I mean, how huge is a blocked kick, a blocked extra point? Ask what Florida State was.
Ask Green Bay last year.
I mean, that can be the difference. Ask the Green Bay Packers, in the playoffs last year, how valuable special teams are. They lost that game to San Francisco because of special teams. Those plays are so huge in the course of a game that, look, the Lions value it. They put resources into it, and they've got really good special teams. I think the special teams rankings, they were in the top. I can't remember where they finished. I think they might have been in the top 5 last year.
Yeah.
And
the Eagles were consistently a top 10 special when Dave was here.
Yeah, and Dave's great, and he's got a real good pulse on the roster and what guys can do, and they value it here. They feel it's important, and so they've been good at it. And while the offense and defense struggled last year, that was the one thing that the Lions could hang their hat on, and they value it, so it's important.
All right, last year, Dave, week 8, the Eagles had lost a bunch of games in a row, and then they went into Detroit. And they kind of took it out on the Lions, 44-6, and a new Eagle team was basically born, one that was going to go heavy on the run. They did, made it successful, ended up making the playoffs. We would look at it from the Eagle point of view, which is that was the turning round of the season. The Lions had struggled before, they struggled after. It wasn't as big a turning point of the year, but 44-6 and 44-6. Is Campbell talked about that at all this week? Is that something he's using as motivation, or that was so toxic we don't even refer to it in its locker room come 2022?
No, they've talked about it. And look, it was 236 rushing yards, a 5.1 average, 4 touchdowns. Look, the Eagles came in and did whatever they wanted to Detroit, and it was embarrassing. And Dan Campbell called it as much. Some players have said that. And actually, though, it's a good thing in a way, obviously, because it spurred some changes. That was the game. The Lions were on their bye the following week. That's when Dan Campbell took over play calling from Anthony Lynn. That's when they elevated Ben Johnson to the pass game coordinator. That's when they changed some things up defensively. And then you saw down the stretch, they were better, 3-3. They, won some games, were in some close games, and offensively, they looked a ton better. And now Ben Johnson's the offensive coordinator. So it did help some things. It spurred some change, which ended up being good change. But again, it was embarrassing. And the Lions have, talked about that this week, that look, if I'm Philadelphia, I'm going to come in and have the same game plan. Why not? Let's prove that Detroit that we can stop it. And so it's been talked about. Now, obviously, every year is so different. As you guys know, the roster changes over 33%, whatever it is. It's a different team. A third of the guys don't even know about that game. They weren't here. But for those that were here, it was embarrassing. It has been discussed, and the Lions want to make sure that that certainly doesn't happen again, and maybe throw a little bit of revenge over Philadelphia's way, ruin the start of their season.
Well, Tim, one of the issues with the Lions, and I bring this up to Jody, so I want you to tell Jody, we talked about the offensive line at the start, how good a player Frank Ragno is. I think he got injured week 4 or week 5 last year, so he wasn't there. Now the Lions weren't winning games. I don't want to overstate it, but that's one of the best centers in football. Now it perked my ears up when he's not healthy. So if he's not able to go, and you don't have Halapuli Bati, who we're very familiar with here in Philadelphia,
right?
Another starter, that's pretty drastic for week 1. How realistic is it that Frank Ragnow may not play, or is he going to be out there? Do you have a feel for that yet?
I think we just got to see today. Today they got afternoon practice, so obviously the injury report will come. I think if Frank's not practicing on a Thursday, that's not a great sign. If he's out there, I think that's a great sign. So really, it's just going to I'm on a wait and see until practice type of deal with him, just because I know Frank and I know how tough he is. And if he's not practicing on a Thursday before week 1 with the Eagles and that defensive line and what they did to them last year, and I know Frank wasn't there, you mentioned that, but there's some pride with those guys. They think they're, one of the better units in football. And this is a great opportunity to prove that against a really, really good Eagles defensive front. So if Frank's not out there, then he's hurting. So guys, it's really kind of just a wait and see for me today. I think just, people in Philadelphia, just check the injury report. Coaches always say that, but that's legit what it is today, because that kind of, that was a new thing that came about yesterday. So I don't know if he did that during practice yesterday or something that's more recent, but it isn't something he's been dealing with through camp. Let's just put it that way. So it's kind of a newer thing. We're just going to have to kind of wait and see if he practices on Thursday.
Tim, I want to get your feel on Lion Nation, if there is such a thing, because I host shows here in Philadelphia on the radio, much like my national show. And every once in a while I'll get a call from an Eagle fan and go, these last 4 years have been so difficult. Excuse me? Because they've made the playoffs 3 out of 4. All right, they won a Super Bowl in 2017, but 18, 90, 20, 21. So difficult to deal with after living on the top of the mountain. And then you have the Lions. And you talk about a fan base that stands behind its team. The Lions have given their fans very little to cheer about over the last couple years, couple decades, their entire existence. It's been a long time since the Lions have been real good. I'm giving them a lot of credit here. Am I doing them justice? Should they get the credit? I see it's a sellout for week 1. They're selling standing room only tickets now.
How many Eagles fans are going to be there, though, Tim? How many Eagles fans are expected?
There'll be some Eagles fans there, but I'll tell you this: it is a passionate group, and you talked about it. Look, they haven't given them a lot to be passionate about, but still, every year they come. Every year is the year, and I just can't imagine, guys. You went through it in 2017, what that Super Bowl parade, looked like in Philly. But look, Detroit's, one of the few teams that's never even been to the Super Bowl before. Right. They haven't won a playoff game since '91. It's been a long time, right? And so they're just so hungry for some success. And if Dan Campbell can provide it, if this team can get off to a good start, if they can become consistent, the atmosphere here, the atmosphere at Ford Field, just out on the street in Detroit will be so electric because, like you said, it is a very passionate group. Every year they come back. They want this team to win. And if this team gives them something, I just hope I'm around for it because it'll be really right?
Well, I think everybody in the NFC North is just waiting and waiting. And waiting for Aaron Rodgers to retire. Aaron was out there chirping again about everybody says it's their year. And then here comes Aaron Rodgers, and Green Bay's got 13 wins. So it's been difficult for the NFC North as a whole. But we've had you for a while. We haven't talked about the quarterback. I mean, Jared Goff. Where are the lines with Jared Goff? What is the thought process with him? I think, around the league, I think the belief is he's not the long-term guy, but they haven't been able to be in a position to get somebody better. What is the in-house thought process on Jared Goff?
Well, this is a big year for Jared Goff. I think this is the year where you'll find out if Jared Goff is the long-term solution. Look, Ben Johnson's the new offensive coordinator. He sat down with Jared Goff in the offseason, and they built this entire Lions scheme off things that Jared Goff likes, of things he did really well when in 17, 18, when he was a Pro Bowler with the Rams. And they've kind of built this thing just to give Goff some ownership of it. And look, Goff loves it. He's really competent. He's had a great training camp. And look, once Ben was elevated last year after the Eagles game, Jared Goff was 3-2-1 with 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 101.6 passer rating. That passer rating was 6th best in the NFL the second half of last year, and that was before some of the weapons that they get. We talked about T.J. Hockenson. That was without T.J. He was hurt. They didn't have DJ Chark. They didn't have Swift for 5 of those games. Now he's got all those weapons. He's got this offensive line, hopefully, at least, 4/5 of it, you hope. But he's been really good in camp. He loves this offense. It's built around him. They went out and got him weapons. And so, look, there's no excuses, right? I mean, he's got an offensive line, a tight end, a run game, a wide receiver core. They're going to get J-Mo back. They've done everything to help Jared Goff be successful. And so if Jared Goff isn't successful, then you probably know that, hey, we're going to go a different route. But let's also remember Jared Goff's 27 years old. He's been in the league a long time, still a young guy, right? Look, he's taken a team to a Super Bowl. He's won big playoff games. He's had success in this league. And so the Lions are hoping with what they've done to kind of tailor the offense around him and the weapons that they provided him, that he can pick up, right where he left off last year. And this offense can be good. And now we are talking about Jared Goff. Maybe it's a long-term solution, but really it's on Jared Goff. This is the year. There's no excuses. He's got the weapons. He's got the line. Everything is provided around him. So now he's got to perform, or they'll have to make decisions afterward. But I would expect Jared Goff to have a pretty good year. He's been really, really crisp in camp. He's been strong. He has picked up right where he left off, and I would expect him to be pretty good. And big test for him week 1. We'll see.
And pardon me if I'm looking at the dark side of life, and if he turns his ankle on the third play of the game, is the unstoppable Nate Sudfeld ready to step in and run that Lion offense?
Yeah. No, that's a good point by you, because that is one of the areas where, at least, myself, I think fans have also looked at, there's not, they haven't drafted that guy, right? They didn't go get a veteran guy, a $5 million backup that can step in and, has experience winning games. And so that is an area where they do not have depth. They cannot have an injury to Jared Goff. Look, Nate Sudfeld just got here. I haven't seen a lot of them. So, but look, you have, but he was a backup, right? You're a backup for a reason, right?
He was a backup in the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You hope you never see that guy, and if you do, he can win you a game or two. And look, the Lions didn't have that when Jared Goff missed some time with a rib injury last year. Tim Boyle was 0-3. David Blau, who was here competing with Tim, was 0-5 and 19 when he filled in for Stafford. So they've really never had that guy that they've spent resources on, a fairly high draft pick. So look, nothing can happen to Jared Goff. That's certainly the rule of thumb here in Detroit. Somebody's got to walk around with a bubble around him or something. Can't slip down the stairs, can't get hurt, because that is one area where, the Lions, I think, have some issues if something happens to Jared Goff.
Yeah. Well, they're not the only team. I mean, there's a lot of teams that would be sunk if they lose their number one quarterback. He is Tim Twentyman, at T Twentyman on Twitter. Read him at DetroitLions.com. And pay attention to that injury report, Eagles fans, especially Frank Ragno. I do want to end another Eagles sort of, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Olin Mcneil, I want to know how he's doing. He was there was a kerfuffle in the Eagles draft room that was televised live, where Tom Donahue, who was now gone from the organization, maybe due to this kerfuffle, by the way,
that's strong.
Yeah. He wanted Olin Mcneil, and the Eagles went with Milton Williams, more of a pass rushing 3-technique defensive tackle. So anyway, got a little bit of play here in Philadelphia. I was wondering for an update on how Mcneil is doing with the Lions.
Yeah, he was really good as a rookie. He was I think the Pro Football Focus all rookie team. Really strong, athletic guy inside. And interestingly, he played nose almost probably 95% of the time last year. And they've actually moved him out to the 3-tech some. And they plan to be a little bit versatile with him because they think he's so athletic. I mean, here's a guy who used to play running back and he used to play outfield in baseball, high school baseball. Imagine that guy roaming the outfield, but he's that athletic. He's a big, large, strong man, but he is athletic, and they think he can give them a little bit of pass rush prowess from the interior. So, they're moving him around a little bit. He had a good rookie year. You guys know just as well as me that usually the biggest leap a player takes is from that first year to second year, when the game slows down and they get comfortable. And, they like where the trajectory Alim's on. They're going to move him around a little bit, and they think, he can be a force inside. And when you pair that with Aiden Hutchinson on the outside and Charles Harris, who had 7.5 sacks last year, Michael Brockers is a vet guy. That's one area where the Lions on the defensive side of the ball feel pretty good about. They got questions about linebacker. We talked about the secondary. There's questions there, but the defensive line and Alim being part of that, that's one area the Lions really think they got something defensively.
All right, Timmy, last thing, and again, we're asking for some state secrets here, which are kept well under wraps in Philadelphia, but might be available in Detroit. If a big play is made by Rodrigo on defense, will they be blaring salsa movement in the music in the stadium on Sunday? Because to me, that was as big a highlight in Hard Knocks as anything else. That kid can dance. He can play football too, but he can dance. Will that become a Detroit Lion thing on Sundays this year?
Oh, I think they got to come up with something, right? They got to come up with some kind of salsa something. And look, after the last Hard Knocks episode, if he becomes really good, if he becomes a guy that becomes a staple on that defense, look, cowboy hats and cowboy boots might make a return in Detroit. You just don't know. So, but I would expect he's become kind of a face of that defense, at least a young one, with how he's played. look, a 6th-round draft pick who I expect him to start Sunday and play lunch. He's been that good. And so, I'd love to maybe see him get a sack, see what that celebration dance is, see if he incorporates that into the dance, and then the stadium guys can get the music keyed up to it. I think that'd be good. I like where you're at there. I'm going to suggest that to the stadium guys.
There you go. And that's something I think we can share ahead of time. That doesn't need to be kept under wraps. Timmy, good stuff. We appreciate greatly your coming on. Thank you very much. Have a good season. John may see you in the press box on Sunday. Thanks for jumping on today.
Sounds good. Safe travels, John.